Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome to the Varsity Locker Room podcast. Your hosts, Frank Kill and Matt Tabler. Here we are, week 3, talking about high school boys basketball. And again, great week of high school sports and high school hoops. And, congratulations to Marion Local and Coldwater Cavaliers for winning a state title in football. And, our good friends, Nate Garlock and Matt Quatman, did a lot of coverage with them over through the football season. And, again, we want to give a lot of props to Nate Garlock for his technical support and executive producership around here, because without him, this show would be a wreck. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, he does a great job. We have him on call, by the way. Last week we were having
Speed
some technical difficulties, and he came right in. And yeah, like you said, congratulations to Coldwater, Marion Local. You kind of have a heartwarming story that you kind of heard with the Coldwater. It gave me the goosebumps when you were telling me on Sunday. You just want to go into that a little bit?
I as I was listening to the game on Saturday, I was heading to get a load of wood for my wood burner, and I'm listening to the announcers talk about, Kale Winning's, mother, and how she hadn't been to a game all season until that state championship game, and she knew she needed to be there for her son's friends
who
and
he passed away.
Correct. And it was a tragic story how Kale passed away, and anytime you lose a teenager, and for that mother to kind of go above and beyond and do what's right for the teammates. And as the announcers are talking about this, Kale's best friend gets a defensive fumble recovery for a touchdown. And the most important and crazy thing about this was after the game, the post-game interviews was Kale's best friend who got that touchdown and just talked about, Kale looking down from above, and just looking at over his teammates, and to think how that all played out at the exact same time, at that perfect moment where the announcers are talking about Kale's mom, the best friend scores a touchdown all at the same moment. To me, it's not by accident by any means.
A brave, strong young woman right there. I mean, you said that they were coming over and having meals with her during the week, and
every Sunday
to it, but she just couldn't get enough fortitude to get over there to watch a game, because it probably had so many memories that she just didn't want to relive. And then for her to be able to go to the state championship game and that happened, that's absolutely awesome.
What a special moment for Coldwater to start the season off with a huge loss of one of their team members, senior players, and to be able to raise that trophy at the end, and knowing that number 70 is in heaven looking down. And to me, it's such it's a magical moment, one that those kids will obviously never, ever forget. But what a great ending to a tough start at the beginning of the season.
Unfortunately, we had to go through that at Perry in 2017 when we lost our coach, our assistant coach, our head football coach, and my assistant basketball coach in 2017. He was driving home right before the regional, and he was killed in a car accident. And that was a bunch of guys rallying together. We didn't even know if we were going to play the next night. His dad came in and talked to us and said, Herb Lane, who's passed away, said he'd want us to play. And our kids rallied. We had team meetings, and they definitely did that. And they played with heavy hearts, but they played in his honor. And that's all we told them: play in his honor. You don't have to win this basketball game, but just play as hard as he'd want you to. And I'm sure it was the same situation with the Coldwater family, that they had to go through this, the football team, the entire season. And way to cap off a season with a great state championship. Those two coaches over there, they're just, the hardware. They're bringing it home, aren't they?
They are. Again, we'll be recapping the games this past week. We talk about the game of this week, preview of games. We'll talk about the players of the week. We'll review the over and under from last week and look at the under for this week. Who's hot and who's not? So, again, I know that's probably one of our most listened
we're getting
segments.
a lot of things on that.
So it's to be discussed here in a few short minutes. But, recapping week 1 of high school boys basketball. The scoreboard recap is sponsored by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Professional Realty. Let's find your dream home. See Dalton Brenner for all your real estate needs. Deal with Dalt.
Hey, let's jump right into our game of the week last week. It was Shawnee at Crestview. 2 weeks in a row now, Frank. We are like gurus. We're picking good games. The week before we picked LCC Elida, which was a 6-point game, but it was a 1-possession game with a minute to go. This Shawnee Crestview game did not disappoint. Shawnee ends up going over to Crestview and defeating the Knights 57-56. Just like in their game against LCC in the championship, Shawnee turnovers plagued them. I got a chance to watch the replay on 44 WOSN, and again, they built themselves into a little hole. And but just like the LCC game, Shawnee was able to turn Crestview over in the second half, got about 8 turnovers, which propelled a 13-0 run to erase a 15-point deficit. And with 4 minutes to go, they were only trailing 2 points. And so they just made that run. And when you have that much experience, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And Crestview, I guarantee Coach Etzler kept warning them, they're going to make their run. We got to stop it. We got to stop it. And Owen Heckler actually hits a big 3 for Crestview with 2 minutes to go to put the Knights up 4. But then again, Shawnee ends the game on an 8-3 run, and it was all propelled by their defense. And as coaches, we know that defense wins games. I know Coach Tripp would like a complete game with defense and not having to turn it up when you're down 15 or 22 in the LCC case. So I'm sure that's been a big point of emphasis this week as they go in playing Elida on Friday night.
Well, you look at, I was kind of following that game and I was thinking, man, is that score right? Because I didn't expect the game to be, with that type of margin, especially early and going through the third quarter. But, it just shows you the testament of a Shawnee basketball team with Coach Triplett and how he's got to continue to keep them motivated, because when you get down, and especially you're on the road and it's not a neutral court anymore. You are on the road. You are at the Ray Etzler Gymnasium. I had my battles there. It's not an easy place to win. That's why I picked Crestview to win that game. But thank God you set the spread.
Well, I went back and listened to it. I said I got them by 5, Shawnee, and you said you had Crestview by 5. But then I was like, well, I was giving you 5, so we'll give you that win, even though we're not keeping track of it. But it was a great game. Shawnee was led again by Beckett Berkey with 24 points. His brother Trevick had 17. The team shot 51%. This would probably have been a good game to watch because both teams shot over 50%. Crestview shot 50%, and then Ren Sheets, 25 points, and Owen Heckler had 9. But again, that was a good game for the WOSN. It was our great game of the week last week. All right, moving on. Elida at Spencerville. I know, Frank, that you got to cover this. 93 won the Fan, covered this game. When I watched the replay back, Spencerville ends up winning 64-60, was Elida's poor free throw shooting. When you miss 13, 14 free throws, it's hard to win a 1 or 2 possession game. And what did you see when you watched that game?
Well, you're exactly right. It was 55-53 at one point. And, unfortunately, Amari Walsh, great kid, played so hard that night. And a lot of things were going well for him. The charity stripe was not so friendly. And again, that becomes a mental, giant that you have to battle. And when you miss 1 or 2, and then all of a sudden you go 0 of 3 or 0 of 4, and then next thing you know, you're shooting even tighter. And we, and even you, experience great players get to the free throw line and just struggle because it's that giant. They just can't get past. And Zori Island was really good for him. He finished around the rim. He was even better the second night. But, for Zori to kind of propel himself after the tip-off classic week wasn't the greatest weekend for him during the tip-off, but I thought he had a fantastic weekend this past weekend. He's a senior. He's going to step up when they need it the most. But, I really thought Brody Altenbaugh was a kid who came off the bench for Elida Bulldogs, knocked down 4 huge threes, 2 big in the fourth quarter. And again, they got it to right where they needed. They just couldn't make a free throw to get them even tied. I mean, they went 3 possessions, only being down 2, but missed 6 free throws in a row.
Yeah, it was a battle of the backcourts, and Spencerville hit some big free throws when they needed to down the stretch. I had an opportunity because my game was in a running clock, so I had an opportunity to listen to your game. It was a great call by you guys on the way home, and then I got to watch the replay. But it was a battle of the backcourts, and the Sensaballs, when they team up for 44 of their 64 points, that's dangerous. And Will Sensabaugh had 28, and he was 9 for 12 from the floor, and Owen Sensabaugh had 16, and then this guy's the horse. I really like this player in Carter Orr, man. Double, 12 points, 10 rebounds, leads them to a big victory. That's a good rivalry. That's we kind of debated throwing it back and forth. Should that be the game of the week? There's a couple this week. Should that be the game of the week? It was a tough pick. It finished second. So we had two good games right there. And, you had an opportunity to call it, which was really cool.
To see both Will and Owen be so consistent. And then the one thing I've appreciated, when you're a coach's son, you get so much scrutiny and, they're only getting that stuff because of their dad.
No, that's earned.
It is literally, as you said, earned. These kids put so much time in their craft. Seeing Will, who's the younger brother, kind of just propel himself last Friday into the game. He was not forcing anything, and he takes pressure so it just absorbs it. It does not bother him. And then to see Owen the way that he did, he hit a couple big shots for him down the stretch, and he was struggling there for a little bit. But man, then he went off, and it's like if you double one, and you're leaving, it's pick your poison.
Yeah. And Will, the efficiency to score 28 points and only shoot 12 times from the floor, that's cashing in right there. Shoot 75% of the floor. So great win for the Bearcats there. It was 64-60. Some other games in the WBL, New Bremen knocked off Salina 53-39, and Defiance knocked off Paulding 58-49. Moving on, St. Mary's played at Perry. Coach Nolde, I know he's a little frustrated right now, but he can't get down on a young group. He has to continue to be positive, and he will be. But right now they're sitting at 0-4 after another tough defeat. They only scored 17 points against the St. Mary's, and it was 54-17. Van Wert got their first win under Coach Best on Friday night as they beat the Parkway Panthers 53-47, and so did Walpock. In their first game after a delayed start, they beat Bowling Green 50-40. All right, moving on. We talked about Temple Allen East. You want to talk a little bit about this? We were talking about Temple trying for their first 3-0 start.
Right. And the game was tied 21-21 at half. And then, midway through the third quarter, Temple led 28-27. But then the Mustangs, again, they went on a 10-0 run. And during those runs as coaches, you sometimes, how many timeouts do I take? Do you feel the momentum? And, if you're Coach Bowman, he's been around a long time. And he probably just couldn't get that 10-0 run to stop. And again, Allen East controlled the boards. Temple made 9 threes. So you think 27 of their 47 points come from behind the arc. And so, they must have some shooters over there in the covered wagon, but not an easy game to go on the road for Temple to go into an Allen East after losing a tough battle on Tuesday against Ridgemont. So if you're Allen East, you got a lot of production coming from, Logan Hessler with 12 points and Ethan Young with 10. But Temple getting Malachi Minke 12 points and Derek Schultz 10. Again, those are, you think about how those teams are playing, and, if you're Coach Bowman, you got to be pleased, but probably disappointed knowing that you were playing very well.
And Allen East, the Mustangs, don't sleep on this team. They are 3-1 right now out of the gate with one tough defeat where they controlled it for, 3/4 of the game versus against Ridgemont.
Ridgemont, my apologies. Yeah.
So they're right there. Your alma mater got a victory over the USV Rams. That is, USV stands for
Upper Scioto Valley
Rams.
I got you. Caught me off guard. Roundhead, Alger, McGuffey,
and not Scioto. Coach Evans corrected us on that one. All right. Well, we had Kalida go over to Delphus St. John's on Friday night. Coach Elwer, congratulations, got his 250th career victory.
Jeez, what took you so long?
Yeah, they defeated the Wildcats 70-58. Cam had 24 points. His brother Andrew had 14, and Tice McLean ended up with 10. Bubba Smith led the Wildcats of Kalida with 16 points.
By the way, neither one of us have 250 wins.
No,
that was congratulations, Aaron.
Yes, congratulations. And we also had the BVC starting out with their league play, and the victors in there were Ada, Liberty Benton. Arlington had a non-conference affair with an old BVC team, and Corey Ross, and they were victorious, as well as Pandora, Lipsick, and Van Buren all got victories there. Where else here on Friday? Miller City. Again, there's another silent team. And we kind of alluded in our previews that this team could be pretty good. They got another victory. They really handled Holgate 53-22. Fort Jennings got a win over Antwerp 59-49. And then in the NWCC, they had a league game. Again, with them trying to cram all these games in, these league games are showing up on a Monday, a Saturday, a random Friday when the other team's not playing. Elgin played Hardin Northern. Really handled them by 33 points. All right, moving on to Bowser at Lima Senior.
Well, you got to call this game yourself, but again, Lima Senior, we knew going into this when we did our over under total points for the weekend that Lima was probably going to control the game, and that they did just from the beginning to the end. If you saw any of the highlights, whether it's on any social media platform, I mean, it was dunk city, lob city, but that's their athleticism. They controlled it. They're faster. They were more athletic. Their defensive pressure, 94 feet, forced Bowser with 29 turnovers. And again, a lot of those turnovers leading to easy transition points at the other end. Lima also made 11 threes. And again, so that's, compared to 2 threes, the defense, 2-3 defense that Bowser was playing. So they were trying to stop penetration, but Lima Land was just knocking it down from Spartan Way, probably from anywhere they wanted to, but they're so athletic. They do a great job of rebounding. Spartans were led by Jaquel Cotton with 25 points, Sean Foster 14, and Willie Foster with 11. And, they won 87-44.
Yeah.
And again, it probably could have been more, but again, their bench is long. They have a ton of depth. So, for Lima to kick off their season going 1-0, it's exactly what they wanted to do.
Well, and I made a comment. We were covering the game at WIMA 1150, and I said, well, Bowser has seen the second great thing tonight. The clock is actually running, and they're going to get QP burgers after. So they did get 2 things probably good out of that whole situation. All right, moving on to Saturday night, a game that you guys covered again on 107.1. I had an opportunity to listen to this game as I was driving home from my Miami Redhawks, who really disappointed me at Ford Field. It was a bucket list thing. Never been able to do this. Always have basketball, but it was not a fun check mark as they were destroyed 38 or 31 to 7. I don't know. I left. It was really bad. But you got to cover Delphos St. John's at Elida at the Fieldhouse.
Well, it's back-to-back nights I get to watch Elida, and it kind of really the same story, but Delphos St. John's 34, they led in rebounding 34-29, and Delphos St. John's doesn't have a guy over 6'2", and that's Cam Elwer, and he's your guard. But Delphos St. John's shot the ball extremely well. They're so efficient in their zone, or their man offense. Cam Elwer, when I say a silent 30 points that night with Andrew Elwer with 15, Elida was led by Zori Island with 20 points. Elida still shoots 41% from the field, and that's not a bad night, but they just couldn't get any defensive stops, and Delphos St. John's did a great job, and I say, to me, outworking the Bulldogs.
I had an opportunity to watch this game this morning, and Delphos St. John's, out of those 34 rebounds, I'd be curious to how many offensive rebounds led to more points, because in that first half, they were on the offensive glass. Kind of Elida was watching the ball go up and not putting body on body. And if they did put body on body, they weren't going to get the ball, and Delphos would just beat them to the ball. And you can't have that, especially if you're only shooting 41% from the floor. You have to limit those possessions. And as evident with the final score, the Blue Jays win 75-47. How about Bath? Wildcats get their first win under their new coach, Coach White. They go over to Ottoville and beat Ottoville 62-52. I guess there was a lot of technicals. Talking to a teacher at Elida, his son plays for Bath, and I said, on who? And he said, Ottoville. I don't know who the technicals were on, and maybe that was an exaggeration. People, how they exaggerate. Might have been one technical, but he said there was multiple technicals. But congratulations to Coach Dre White on getting his first win with his alma mater. Shawnee turned around and played a tough one. They had to go at St. Henry. Going into the MAC country after playing at Crestview. That's a good weekend for Shawnee to get to 3-1 as they won 64-55. And then St. Mary's was victorious. Wayne Trace and Minster drubbed Walpock 51-29.
Also on Saturday, we had Allen East getting a big win in overtime over Ada. So, those were, as I said before, between Allen East, Ada, and Ridgemont. Ada beats Ridgemont, by 1. Ridgemont beats Allen East by, a couple points. And then
Allen
you
East
have
beats
Allen
Ada.
East beats Ada,
Yeah.
by 3 in overtime. So, those teams are very well matched. And again, if you played them again, they might have a different outcome. But, great win for Allen East to go on the road over to Ada. Crestview getting a big win at Parkway, 51-42. Jefferson knocking off Perry, 62-38. Toledo St. Francis at LCC. Toledo St. Francis gets a big win down at the Monsignor Gymnasium. They have a 6'10" guy. I talked to Coach Powell, and again, really wasn't dominant like Coach Powell thought he would be. It was just Coach Powell talked about the heart of the T-Birds that he was very proud of. They didn't have their best practices during the week, and as coaches, we always talk about the 5 Ps in terms of proper preparation prevents poor performance. And when you don't prepare for teams and when you overlook teams, you're not going to play your best. And that's what high school kids do.
And you're going to get that with a young group like they have.
Right.
They're still riding high on that tip-off classic. And from what I heard, it came down to a couple free throws with not much time on the clock. They had called a foul. Toledo St. Francis converts those free throws. And
it goes back to if you have fouls to give, do you burn them and try to kill clock? There was 3 plus seconds on the clock. LCC was defending the ball out of bounds. And so as coaches, you saw it early on when they did the whole 5 fouls, in a quarter, and how, yes, let's foul. But then all of a sudden some teams were getting the intentional foul being called, and then all of a sudden it was backfiring. Coach Powell's never done it in the 2 years, or if even wasting, just burning a timeout.
So he had fouls to give?
He had fouls to give.
Okay.
And he tried it, and they thought they were going to do a high-low action where the kid catches it high, and next thing you know, they call it a shot.
Oh, so
that's
fouled him in the act.
Fouled him in the act of shooting.
Okay.
And, so that's how you lose the game. But I didn't like it. Of course, I didn't have to do it as a coach because one, we fouled all the time, but I never got to coach under the new 5.
No, I don't foul just because then it poses a rebounding problem. You still got to rebound the basketball, and we struggle. Most of my teams notoriously were guard oriented, so we would struggle. So I would stay away from that. And then the big thing is I would never try anything if I never practiced it.
Right.
Like there'd be coaches drawing plays up like assistants. I always had them draw plays up at the end of the game. They're better than me. I have them do that. And I'm like, no, we didn't practice that one. Don't draw that one up. You have to have the kids comfortable. But again, it's a one loss. It's
right.
one loss. It's early. You learn from it as a coach. You learn as it from a player, and you just move on. So
moving on, Continental at Lincolnview. Lincolnview gets a big win at home, and then Spencerville goes to Fort Jennings and gets a big win, 55-33 at Fort Jennings.
Fort Recovery was winners out of a school out of Indiana, Jay County, 64-59, and New Knoxville got a win, their first one of the year over Fairlawn, 50-44.
Arcadia at North Baltimore gets a big win on the road. Arlington, again, just continues to roll 61-31 over Temple. Hard Northern at Lipsick. Again, Lipsick just keeps doing what they've been doing and what we kind of predicted at the beginning of the year. They win 66-51. Cary at Liberty Benton. LB with a big win, 54-28. And Riverdale at Pandora. Pandora wins 47-41.
Coach Lee's at 3-1 right now, so he has his squad playing. How about Kalida beat Archbold 38-27? How about Miller City? They get Maumee Valley Country Day, who has been an up-and-coming team these last few years. Bring them, like we talked about, Coach Kaufman has stepped up his schedule. He's bringing in some of these city schools, some of these private schools, the outliers of bigger cities. He brings in Maumee Valley Country Day, and Miller City defeats them 65-64. Good job, Coach.
Big win. Also, Elgin at Cardington Lincoln. Cardington Lincoln, 102-42. Delaware Christian at Ridgedale. Ridgedale, 69-31. And Waynesfield Goshen at Ridgemont.
League game on a Saturday.
Ridgemont, big win, 65-34.
All right, Princeton at Lima Senior. This game probably was not indicative of the score. This was the test that we were talking about, Lima, how they were going to respond to these tests. They were bringing in a Cincinnati Princeton team, an old GMC rivalry. Princeton is in Division I, ranked in the top 10, and it was only a 2-point game with 3 minutes to go. Lima ends up winning the game 72-56.
Well, as I said, if you saw any of their highlights, they can score so quick.
Oh, yes.
And then when I say quick, it's like they get a layup or a dunk and turn around. They're automatically in their full court pressure. As soon as the ball is out of bounds, they're trying to trap. And next thing you know, like it's layup, dunk, layup, dunk. I mean, that's how fast they are on defense. And I know Coach Simpson, he constantly talks about pressure, playing good defense as soon as the ball is in bounds, or even not letting him get the ball in bounds. But that's how fast they can score.
Yeah, Sean Foster led the Spartans with 18 points. Jaquel Cotton had 16, and Willie Foster had 15. We had a few games this week. On Tuesday, last night, St. Mary's went to Findlay and got beat 51-47 for Coach Gross's first win at Findlay High School. So congratulations to the Trojans there. Ottoville knocked off Antwerp 58-41. And then last night I had an opportunity. WIMA went all the way up to Toledo Whitmer. I don't know how these kids do it. I'm struggling today. I mean, we walk in the door at 11:15. Their bus probably didn't get back till midnight or a little after. And, they're playing a team that was in the Final Four last year, Toledo Whitmer. They have a player going to Purdue, and Matt Painter was there last night to watch him. They have another player that's going to Bowling Green State University. Their coach was there to watch him. It was a great contest. Whitmer kind of had the lead pretty much the whole game. They got it up to 10. Lima, like you said, can strike fast. They would string some points together, but it came down to free throws, unfortunately. And when you miss, I think they were 10 of 19 from the free throw line, or 10 of 17, and Whitmer was 16 of 19. It's going to be tough in a 1 or 2 possession game to win games if you can't.
Well, the one thing that I kind of heard last night between you and Todd, Walker, talking about the game is the physicality of Mekhi Leach and Antoine West.
Both
two
Whitmer players,
two big bodies that are guards. They handle the ball so well. But I remember watching them last year as juniors. And as a game, and last night it was a game of, as Todd would say, bully ball. Is that you can't stop me from getting to the rim. And I remember watching these two as juniors and thinking these guys are going to be studs. And the fact that they're going to go to Purdue and Bowling Green, Lima's guards, they know they got work to cut out in terms of gaining weight and be able to defend. But they're only juniors and sophomores at Lima, and Lima's free throws. It comes down to repetition, muscle memory, and again stay in the box, and then knowing that hey, it is pressure situation. You're going to grow from it, and as seniors and juniors, they're just going to grow more and more. But this loss to me for Coach Q is kind of a wake up call for if you were there. Doing the little things.
Yeah. And he talked about that on the radio. We did not pay enough detail to the scouting report. Our guys got to make sure. And again, it's one loss and it's not the end of the world. It's a challenge and you learn from it. And I felt like Lima just did not finish well at the rim. Whitmer was athletic. They guarded well, but Lima still got to the basket so many times, but there was a lot of off one foot, switching hands in midair, not keeping your chin on the rim, anticipating contact. But I'll tell you what kept Lima in it. Out of every timeout in every quarter,
backdoor.
Coach Q had a nice backdoor setup and burnt them every single time they ran it. And so, as much as Coach Q talks about not paying attention to detail, the scouting report, they were paying attention in the timeouts because he got exactly what he wanted. And so they did a good job with there. They actually got a steal with 48 seconds to go. And it was Sean Foster got the steal, threw it up the floor. He ran to the corner and kind of took an off balance shot. I thought he could take it to the rim, but again, it's one of those, if it goes in, great shot. Right. If not, you start to question it. I really don't question it because Sean works his butt off there on defense the entire night, as well as on the offensive end. So they did have a chance to win it. Unfortunately, Whitmer, like we said, hit their free throws. Sean Foster led him with 24. Boog Wilson, I felt like he played a little better offensively, struggled a little bit on defense against the strength of the guards. They kind of backed him down. He had 12 points, and Jaquel Cotton had 10.
All right, here we go. Week 3, game of the week. Delphus St. John's at Minster, brought to you by Frickers of Lima. We're now for the fall season. We are almost to the winter season, but stop by and get select appetizers half price after 9 p.m. Perfect for after ball games, practice, or to end a long work day. Last year, Delphus St. John's won 67-42 and have won the last 3 meetings. Delphus St. John's is also 7-3 versus Minster over the last 10 years. But again, this season is a different season because of who Minster is bringing back. Delphos St. John's, obviously a different team from last year. I know where we picked, our predictions for the MAC, and Delphos St. John's they're MAC champs right now. They'll still be champs, until someone knocks them off. They went 9-0 last year, while Minster finished fourth in the conference at 5-4.
And also remember, my prediction is nobody goes undefeated in the MAC this year. That's my prediction. These are some tough matchups.
Delphos St. John's has started off the season 3-0 with wins over Van Wert, Elida, and Kalida. That's Kalida with a K. Average victory is 13.7 points a game. Delphos St. John's is also averaging 73 points a game, which is unbelievable. But again, their defense is giving up 59, and then again, to me, that's a huge accomplishment. When you score a lot of points, a lot of times you're going to give up more
possessions.
Correct,
more possessions.
Delphos St. John's, they have the player to watch, and they actually have a few players to watch. They're led by Cam Elwer, averaging 31 points a game. Andrew Elwer, Drew Boggs. I think he came off the bench on Saturday night. Tice McLean, Braden Klaus, other Jackson Wiekert, and Easton Elwer. They got a lot of great players. By the way, it's Wiekert from Delphos.
Yes,
it's Wiekert. It's Wiekert from Lima. Spelled the same. I got a little history lesson the other day from a Wiekert, and she kind of set me straight on how that all happened. And that was all because of someone's check.
Yeah.
And so the spelling had to stay the same. So,
okay.
But Minster, they won their first game and only game over Walpock, 51-29. And again, here's Minster, to me, playing without one of their better players, but they're led by Cole Albers, 17 points, 8 rebounds. Cole Richards, 13 points. Cole McClure, 7 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds.
That's a nice stat
and James
line right
Niemeyer, 7 rebounds. Exactly.
Yeah.
But again,
their best player doesn't even play. Brogan Steffi does not play. He's questionable to play this Friday. I like this early matchup. I'm sure these coaches love it too. Two teams that finished in the top 4 last year. They're both undefeated at this point. The game, and again, that is not an alcoholic beverage. That is a sparkling water. We need to get them as a sponsor there, Frank. And that's not me doing. That's Frank drinking his sparkling water. But anyways, getting back to it, you talked about Minster returning everybody they have. So they're a year older. They're a year smarter. They've gone through the grind of the MAC. The big guy comes in and gets 17 points, 8 rebounds for him, Cole Albers. They have a lot of nice pieces. Does only playing one game affect you? But you got him at home. This is just a great matchup. And I look for a single digit game either way. I'm not saying who's going to win, who's going to lose, but I think it's two very good players. And then how do you defend Cam? No one's been able to really defend him. I know Elida sent a second defender to him at times. And I haven't been able to watch him in their other games, but he's just a tough matchup. But with that being said, Minster has 2 first-teamers coming back, and Brogan Steffi and Cole Richard, and they can also shoot the ball, but they also can defend. And then we talked about the coach's son with a nice stat line against Walpock, 7-7-5. He's back from last year, but I think the big X factor is, can Brogan Steffi go, and is he at 100%?
Well, from inside sources, I won't mention his or her name, he might not play for a while because that injury is that serious. And as Brogan Steffi, he's your point guard, he's the captain, and kind of the quarterback, and he's a guy that with a lot of experience. If he can't go, that means someone else has to, again, plug and play. We talked about one door closes, another door opens for somebody to step in, but to replace a guy with that experience and leadership, it's hard to replace.
Yeah, and the Wildcats are going to be prepared. Great coaching on both sides. Again, we get these great matchups with coaches. Going to be some great strategy. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see the game. Hopefully, WSN gets to cover this one because I think it's going to be one of those instant classics. All right, you are listening to the Varsity Locker Room with Matt Tabler and Coach Frank Kill. Our conference rundown for this week is brought to you by Stolly Insurance, looking out for you and your family for over 100 years. Top-tier agents who treat you with respect and get you the answers you need when you need them. All right, so let's look at some games. It is starting into league play, week 3. This is where it starts to get exciting, Coach. And I know that you got to play in a league and then you got to coach periodically in a game, but there is so much. And I got a quick question to pose to you. When you were in the league or when you played in the league, how much focus, when you had a double weekend, did your coach or did you as a coach place on Friday as opposed to Saturday?
Well, I don't remember getting a scouting report for Saturday.
Yeah.
As a player, as a player, you just kind of played Friday night. The night before the Friday night game, you got your scouting report of who we were playing in the conference, because that was the most important. And then Saturday night, it was, let's go out and play and let's be us. Kind of the same way, for me as a coach, we always focused on the conference play first, but what we were doing periodically throughout the entire week, Monday through Thursday, sprinkle in something that we would focus on for Saturday.
Yeah. Like, so for instance, if the Friday night team didn't run a zone, you're not really going to scout against a zone all week, but you'd slip a segment in going against a zone because you knew on Saturday you're going to face a little zone. So you just here and there, so that when Saturday you went to talk about it with the team, you're like, remember back when we practiced this is what they're going to run. And then you only get like an hour and a half walk through, and then some teams get like a 7-hour break. Not if we're coaching. No. We're going at 4:00, buddy.
That's right.
And then get a 3-4 hour break and we're going. So anyways, getting to the league play, the NLL has it's the NLL, correct? The Northern Lakes League. Finley's in that league. They do their conference, the first 3 or 4 games on Thursday night, and they let their ladies play on Friday, which I would be all for. I would do a Thursday, Saturday in a heartbeat. Thursday night, Saturday morning. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Well, Springfield's going to Finley, and that will be Finley's first league game. And then on Friday night, the WBL, we have St. Mary's at Salina, Wapak at Defiance, OG at Kenton, and a couple games we want to look at. First, I think this is a big one. The records don't show it, but with your prediction saying Elida was going to win the conference, I think this is a must win at 1-3 in their first league game against Shawnee in 3-1. I said they'd win it if they played Shawnee in the tip off. They didn't. So I got my out. I think the Bulldogs can do it. I think it's going to be a tough feat, and it could be like the MAC. Maybe that nobody goes undefeated, but whoever wins this game has a strong leg up in that conference.
Well, I think if you look at both teams in Shawnee, the last 2 games that they've played against LCC and Crestview, they haven't come out too hot.
Yeah.
They've had to dig themselves out a hole. So if Elida can find an opportunity to get off on a good start, that would be the best thing that could happen for the Bulldogs, because they're going to need a quick start between Shawnee, because Shawnee is too good to give them a big lead and to give it up. But they have played 15 times since 2016-17. Shawnee is 12-3 over the Bulldogs over that span. But Elida closed the gap according to the margin of victory last season by getting beat by 6-3, and again closing that victory margin of defeat. They're playing with them, But again, that goes back to experience. And I still look at a guy like Parker Krim, who's still kind of growing into his shoes, into his body, and again, he's going to battle, and he's a guy that's going to battle hard. He might get you 5 fouls, but he's going to play extremely hard. This game could, hold a lot of implications on who wins the WBL, because to me, these are the top 2 teams of the conference. I think if Elida plays to their potential, same thing with Shawnee, this could be a really close matchup. And to me, I think the everybody shines on Shawnee at Shawnee. So it's going to be a great game.
Elida's record is deceiving because this team is not a 1-3 basketball team. It's just unfortunate the way their schedule's set up. And I think the coaching staff really knew it, and they kind of alluded the kids. It could be a little difficult. I know the coaches aren't happy with 1-3, but this record's a little deceiving because this team, for the schedule they've played, I mean, you get beat by LCC, you get beat by Spencerville, you get beat by Delphus St. John's. That's 1 combined loss between the 3 teams. So they're right there. But if I'm Coach Howard, and I don't know if Coach Tripp is battling this right now, like I think he wants to be a man guy, but his 3-2 is so successful. It's got him out of some holes. Like, I'm thinking just scrap it. Let's go back to George Mangus days and play 3-2 at the beginning and don't end till the end.
Right.
And so if I'm Coach Howard, I'm preparing for that 3-2 half court trap, especially to stop the guards of penetration. One hole in that half court is the corner 3. There has to be a hole in every zone, and that's where it is. But you got to play inside out. You got to be able to get the ball into Parker. You got to be able to get the ball into Eben so that they can kick it out to the shooters to break that 3-2 zone.
Moving on, we have OG at Kenton. Bath is heading to Van Wert. Bath is 1-2, Van Wert 1-3. Going to Van Wert, we saw Van Wert their first game against Delphos St. John's a few weeks ago, where they shoot 60+% for the game. Van Wert obviously playing with a lot of confidence at home. Van Wert has won 12 of their last 15 meetings against Bath. The last time Bath beat Van Wert was 2015-16 season. So obviously, if you're Coach White, you got a lot to prove in terms of, can we go on the road? Can we win? But again, different teams.
Well, Bath finished 0-9 in the conference last year, and Van Wert's only win was against Bath, 62-42 for their only league win. Right now, Bath is averaging 46.7 a game while giving up 52.3, and then Van Wert is averaging 52.3 and giving up 57.3. I think that's going to be actually a really good game, a really competitive game. It'll be interesting to see Bath on that big court playing with all that space. Bluffton's going to be opening up their conference play with their first game of the year, as they'll be at home versus the Jefferson Wildcats. Crestview at Spencerville. WIMA is covering this game. We'll be covering both Spencerville games this week. Crestview, again, their record's a little deceiving at 2-2 because you get beat by a one-loss Shawnee team and an undefeated Miller City team. They're going to be taking on the undefeated Bearcats, who have 3 nice wins, actually. You got St. Henry, who is not going to be bad by the end of the year. Fort Jennings is up and coming and predicted in the top half of the PCL. And then you beat a tough Elida team at home. Last year, Spencerville won this game 52-49. The last 3 games have been decided by 3 points or less. So this was a close second on game of the week just because of how close it is. Crestview is 6-4 over the last 10 meetings. I look for a good game. Again, how are they going to match up with Wren? And then how are they going to match up with the guards for Spencerville? Now this is kind of contrasting. Spencerville played Elida. It was guards versus guards. Now it's how are we going to guard their big? How are we going to guard their guards? So It'll be interesting to see how this game plays out.
LCC goes to Lincoln View. The last time LCC played at Lincoln View was during the 2016 season, where both teams were number 1 in the state, Division III LCC, Division IV Lincoln View. Both teams went on to play in the state championship games. But again, going to Lincoln View, it's never easy. The faithful of the Lancers are always there. It's a great crowd, great atmosphere.
And refresh me on that. That's the house that Frank Kill built.
I didn't build anything. If there was a bathroom, I may have built that, but nothing else.
All right, in the MAC, we got Coldwater at New Knoxville. We have Fort Recovery at Marion Local, St. Henry at New Bremen. And then the BVC, we're going to continue with BVC. Ada at Riverdale, Arlington at Van Loo, Elmwood at Macomb, and Liberty Benton at Lipsick. I look for that to be a good game. My brother had an opportunity to referee the Liberty Benton game, and he said they are for real. They got some height, and we talked about that in the previews, and he said that team is really good.
That's going to be a really good game.
I think that will be too. All right, moving on to the PCL. Continental is playing a non-league affair against Fairview, as well as Kalida and Holgate. Ottoville is playing at Fort Jennings, but this is one of 2 times they played during the year. This is the non-league, and it probably should happen since they're only 5 miles apart, if that.
5, I thought it was 2. And in the NWCC, we have USV at Corey Rawson, North Baltimore at Hardin Northern, Ridgemont at Perry, Temple at Waynesfield Goshen, and Elgin at Ridgedale.
We have a whole slate of games for, and by the way, Lima Senior Spartans will be taking on their second league opponent against Scott. On Saturday, we have tons of games, but we just want to highlight a few here. And we have Ottoville is playing at Spencerville. Spencerville won their 3rd consecutive time versus Ottoville last year, 66-54. Spencerville is 6-4 over the last 10 meetings. I think it's going to be interesting because Spencerville is going to play a tough game against Crestview Friday night. Ottoville plays Fort Jennings. The emotions will be high because all the towns will be there for that game. So it'll be interesting to see those 2 teams play on Saturday night.
Also, Grove kicks off their season this week at Arlington. Again, if you're Columbus Grove with a great football run, not an easy first game to start off with going to Arlington. We got Crestview at Wayne Trace. We talked about Ottoville at Spencerville. Again, Spencerville is, again, what a tough weekend that they got ahead of them. Spencerville plays Crestview Friday. These are the matchups that we always talk about as coaches. How how do we build our schedule, but how tough do we go with our kids? And again, you got to know your roster. You got to know what you can do. And, if your coach Sensabaugh, you're challenging your kids early on in the season.
He really is with that schedule. Then we got the big PCL matchup. They may not be undefeated because they both play Friday night, but we have Leipzig at Miller City. Leipzig is 3-0. Miller City is 4-0. Miller City has those impressive wins over Crestview, Maumee Valley Country Day. Leipzig has a tough matchup on Friday night versus Liberty Benton. Miller City won this game last year 65-40 and has a 3-game winning streak and is 7-3 over the last 10 meetings. That's going to be a great PCL matchup. Moving on, we have Jackson Center at Waynesfield Goshen, Crestline at North Baltimore, and Ridgemont at Kipp. And then there, again, several games. Parkways at Salina, Allen East at Elida, Temple at Bath on Tuesday, and Walpock at Jefferson. Those are all Tuesday games next week. Bluffton will be playing Paulding in their second game. Fort Jennings goes to Crestview. And then Lima will be playing another league game as they'll be taking on Woodward. Woodward what? What's their mascot?
No
Come
clue.
on.
No
Polar
clue.
Bears.
All right. You are listening to the Varsity Locker Room with Frank Kill and Matt Tabler. This week, Players of the Week, sponsored by Henderson Concrete. For affordable, high-quality concrete services, trust Henderson Concrete Construction. With over 20 years of experience, they deliver reliable, durable results on time, every time. Choose Henderson Concrete Construction for a job done right. Call Adam today for your free estimate at 419-235-1387.
Oh, okay. So I listen, and when we're on here, we sometimes say stupid stuff.
Stupid stuff.
Last
week, stupid
so
stuff.
I'm saying, I'm listening it back to it. And Frank, you said about one of our sponsors, he's expensive.
I did not.
Hey,
if you want cheap, if you want good, if you want fast, he might not be the cheapest. I said it.
Okay.
I did a call.
Let me put this. Concrete is not cheap no matter where you go. So I don't know if you compared to anyone. You went to him because he's your buddy, and he gave you a price, and that price isn't going to be any higher than any other concrete guy, but what you get is a personal touch with him, and he gets out there. So I want to clarify
again,
that.
Personal touch with a good guy with great partnership skills. So
all right,
my good friend Adam.
Let's get to the Players of the Week. This week, Coach Kill, his choice was, and again, probably a no-brainer and probably could be several weeks. We just got the T-shirts on order. We're excited to get these out to the kids. Was Cameron Elwer. He just, in his first week, went for 39, 24, and 30. He is a junior averaging 31 points per game. He came in with 1258 this year. He had 39. But talking to Delphus St. John's people against Van Wert, he actually had 41, and they didn't even give St. John's 2 points. They went back, counted his points. Both books said he only had 39. Both books said they never scored those 2 points. They went back and counted him. He had 41 points. So,
and he's like literally 130 points or 150 points away from breaking the all-time Delphus St. John's scoring record.
All the great
and he's
players.
A junior.
That's
to break
ridiculous.
The all-time scoring record as a junior is unbelievable. And if you've watched Cam, I said it earlier during the Elida game, he doesn't force things. He's not back in the days with the Diebler brothers where they're taking shot after shot. Cam does not do that. And that's
he cashes in from the free throw line too.
Oh my goodness!
And some people, will say, well, he gets every call, and if you ask Coach Elwer, he gets no calls. I mean, there's a fine line. It's tough to officiate. He is so strong. He is going to draw contact. He's drawing two bodies. It would be hard. I feel like when you get a dominant player, that would be a hard game to officiate. I mean, you go back to the Michael Jordan days. That's a hard game to officiate just because he draws so much attention. But it was well worth your Player of the Week right there. Cam, we'll get you a T-shirt here soon when we get him in. But congratulations on being Week 2 Player of the Week.
Coach Tabes, I think you got to see this kid a few times this past week. Jaquel Cotton. 25 and 16 points over the weekend. Great start for Jaquel and the Spartans. He's an inside and outside player, a stretch four, big guy that can go out to the 3-point line and shoot it from deep. Very active on the offensive rebounds. Friday night, he had 25 points. He was 10 of 12 from the field goal, 3 of 4 from threes, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. Played only about 18 minutes in a blowout win over Bowser. Saturday, he had 16 points, 6 of 7 from the floor, 4 of 5 from the 3-point line, 5 rebounds. But again, here's a kid. He had a big steal during that Princeton game, pitched it up the floor to Sean Foster, off the backboard to Willie Foster for the dunk. But that all started from Jaquel Cotton steal.
And I was impressed last night, too. He took 3 charges against those big guys in transition. He ended up only with 10.7 rebounds. The biggest thing is, and I said this on the radio, the kid Antoine, I can't remember his last name. He's the one that's going to Purdue. He chirped in Jaquel's face all night. Jaquel never batted an eye. That's a kid I'm recruiting. That kid just was playing basketball. He didn't let anybody get into his head. I feel like his defense part of the game gets unnoticed a lot, but he changes a lot of shots. He gets on the glass. And then he's a good passer. He sees the floor, and there's a reason why he's going to Detroit Mercy. So congratulations to Jaquel Cotton getting Player of the Week.
Who's hot and who's cold? Ooh. Brought to you by the American Heating and Air Conditioning. American Heating and Air Conditioning is dedicated to providing the best possible solutions for your home and business. You can count on us to provide you with a system and solution that fits your unique needs. Since we've installed many systems in this area, we've earned a reputation for doing the job right the first time. Again, we got who's hot, who's not. Again, we'll start off with who's hot. Delphus St. John's, they're 3-0 this week. Lima Senior, 2-1. Again, they lose that one game, last night on the road. We still think they're one of the hottest teams that's playing because of their style, their coaching staff. They're a team that's going to win a lot of basketball games. That might be, again, just the first test that they see all season, but I think these two teams are really, kind of on fire right now.
Well, first off, what I like about Delphus St. John's, you're 3-0. Your schedule hasn't been exactly easy. You're getting a late start, but the amount of points they're putting up, and it's just not all Cam. Those kids are meshing with him so well. It's kind of what we talked about with Jordan Pretty at LCC and those younger freshmen mixing in well with him. Those guys are mixing in well with Cam, and that just makes that team that much better.
Right.
So they are definitely hot. Lima Senior, I thought that Princeton win was a very good win. Debated whether to put them in, but when you go to Whitmer, the 5th largest school district in the state of Ohio, so they have tons of kids. You got 2 Division I kids on there. I guarantee they got another 2 or 3 that are Division II kids that can play. I felt like Lima didn't play their best game, but had a chance to win it.
Right.
And you have a good basketball team when you can go in and play a team that was in the Final Four last year, return 2 Division I players, play with them, have a chance to win. There's some big things on the horizon for the Spartans, and that one little hiccup cannot get them down because it's only going to make them grow as a team.
All right, that's our hot, but our cold segment is this is something that's really disturbing, especially as coaches and as someone who respects a community. The fan conduct, to me, during these last 2 weeks at high school sports. Now, this is high school sports where, 2 fans, 1 from each school. I'm not going to mention the schools nor the fans, but the fact that they had to bring in security. The fans' conduct has got to stop. You are a spectator to support your team, to cheer on your team. To be a fanatic it doesn't mean you go crazy and irate. Obviously the officials are going to make their calls. The players are going to make their plays. No one is perfect. And for fans to be getting into the game and causing not a riot, but a distraction to what just took place for 32 minutes is a disgrace and an embarrassment on their part of being the adults in the room. And because if you're the adult, you win with class and you lose with class. But unfortunately, too many people get their feelings hurt. And in today's world, they feel like they can, not say throw hands, but cause a ruckus.
And unfortunately, people don't realize this isn't a learning experience for the kids. And if this is what they're learning, what are they truly learning? And no matter, and there's things said in the heat of competition. I've said things that I regret to this day. And maybe some comments were made by some players, but there's a time and place for everything. And as an adult, you handle it differently. You never approach a kid. You never approach a coach's spouse's wife. You don't talk to family. If you want to go vent and you want to set up an appointment or a meeting and act like a professional and adult,
when your emotions are calmed down too.
The 24-hour rule, right? Coach Kill and I believed in the 24-hour rule. Everything seems to calm down a little more. So that was our frigid part and our probably just our little frustration being let out there. Anyways, on to the over-under. Whew, this is going to be bad for me again. Over and under is brought to you by CCR Realtors. CCR sets the standard when it comes to local real estate. If you are looking to buy or sell, see agent Jody Cartagena for all your real estate needs. All right, going into last week, I was over. After this week, I'm over. Frank, you got your first victory. So the season totals of Frank, you are at 1-3. I am at 0-4. Do you want to take us through what we went to last week?
Well, we talked about the over-under Lima Senior total scores for Lima Senior against Bowser and against Princeton. You know, we talked about how I set the bar at 168. Lima Senior only scored 159. We both took the over on that. And then Cam Elwer, total points for the weekend versus Kalida and Elida. Matt took the over. I took the under. Again, 70 points was set. Cam went for
I think that's why Cam was your player of the week, just because he helped you cover the under.
Cam went for a total of 54. Again, 24 on Friday night and 30 on Saturday. I remember you texting me going, he needs 47.
I knew I wasn't going to win that one. And then to justify ours on Lima Senior, that running clock killed us.
It does.
And you didn't play. I mean, when Jaquel Cotton only plays 18 minutes, Bowser outscored them 20-6 in the last quarter because Lima had their JV team in against them. So I'll justify that one. But I need a win this week. And guys, feel free to play along if you're listening. You know, send us a message on how many games you think you got on the over-under for these. So the first one is how many BVC games? We have 4 games on the slate Friday night. How many of these BVC games on Friday will be determined by 15 points or less?
And we only have 4 games that we're covering here. Ada at Riverdale, Arlington at Van Loo, Elmwood at Macomb, and Liberty Benton at Leipzig.
Looking at this, and you can set the number, but I think the partial number is 2.
Correct.
2. I think 2 would be the fair one. And since you're winning, I think you should pick first.
I'm going to go over.
I'm definitely going. Shoot, it's going to be a push.
Go ahead. Take
darn it.
We're on a clock right now.
I'm going to go under because I am over. I was going to go over, but I'm just going opposite of you. Like I said, if this gets close to the end, we can just have a non-disclosal.
Do we do 2.5? So if it gets 2. Up next.
Well, that's a good idea. Now let's just say 2.
Up next, over under wins this weekend for the WBO on Saturday night. Marion Locals at Salina, Defiance at Bryan, Riverdale at Kenton, Shawnee at USV, and OG at Indian Lake, Kalida at Van Wert, and Liberty Benton at Walpock. So we have 7 games on the 7 slate. Games on the slate. I say over under.
Can I pick this number?
You go. Yep. I set the last one. Go ahead.
Well, we kind of did it together. I'm going to put it at 7 games on the slate. I'm putting the number, and I'm going with the half this time. 4.5. 4.5.
I will take.
WBL.
I will take the. Oh, it's so tough. I will take the over.
I'm taking the over too. I can't. The WBL right there, and I see these matchups. I looked at them again. Nope, I'm taking the over. So
all right.
Hopefully I can pick one up on you this week.
Well, again, this is just a fun segment for us. But again, once again, we would like to thank our good friends, our sponsors for the Varsity Locker Room podcast, Frickers of Lima, Stolly Insurance, American Heating and Air Conditioning, Jody Cartagena at CCR Realtors, Henderson Concrete, Dalton Brenner at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. You are listening to the Varsity Locker Room podcast. Thank you. We will be recording every Wednesday as we will be recapping last week's games, and we will be previewing the upcoming games for next week. Until then, happy holidays from the Varsity Locker Room podcast.